Hello and welcome to this episode of the Be Free podcast. And I am very excited to have the lovely Alex here with me today from Conscious Cacao. And yeah, come to share his magic. It is something I get asked about a lot. The plant medicine of cacao, and it's something that supported me so much in the past. I would say maybe 4 years I started working with cacao. And yeah, I've attended some of Alex and Natalie's beautiful online events and have some of their delicious cacao in front of me actually to support me. And yeah, I thought it would be really good to come and have a little bit of an expert chat all things cacao with us today. So hello, Alex, and Alex is in Tennessee.
I am. Hello. Thank you very much for having me.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. So yeah, so Tennessee isn't your usual abode. Do you want to tell us a little bit about kind of who you are? Yeah, your little intro.
Yeah, of course. So Conscious Cacao was born in the UK. My wife is Scottish. She's from Dundee. She started Conscious Cacao in London, where she went to a cacao ceremony at one point. It was extremely powerful. Integrated cacao into her healing and began getting the concept of working with it. And like many great things, the idea for the name came from the bathtub, a very
Hmm.
luxurious bath.
Yeah. The bathtub or the shower, right?
Yeah, right. And it's shortly after this point that our paths intertwined. I was living in the Amazon jungle in Peru, and she came to Peru with essentially three goals in mind: to heal, to find a soulmate, and to find a cacao source. And at this point, the first two of those I shared, but I didn't know much about cacao at that point. I was studying other forms of plant medicine and meditation and different techniques of healing. And she came to the retreat center I'd been living at for a year and a half in the jungle, and we met and we fell in love. Shortly afterwards, she left and she flowed into our supplier of the lovely Sacred Valley cacao. It's in the
Mhm.
UK. That is in the Cusco jungle beneath the sacred Andes Mountains where Machu Picchu lives. And she then brought that to the UK and launched the business. I shortly left the US, or left the US, left the jungle,
Mhm.
returned for the US for a bit, and then we re-met in Guatemala. I got married in Mexico, moved to the Sacred Valley of Peru, and
Yeah.
continued to work there, visiting cacao farms together. During this time when I had left the jungle, I'd say, I had been away from society for a year and a half.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't, I didn't even really know a lot of what was going on. And cacao played a really big role for me in integrating back into the society,
Mhm.
helping me find grounded in this space and integrating all the gifts that I had received in
Mhm.
isolation. And I began working with cacao on a daily basis, and essentially kind of Natalie as my teacher
Yeah.
initially, as well as the spirit of cacao, and developed my own relationship with cacao and way of working with cacao. And we have since traveled to Tennessee. We are currently here. This is my homeland, actually.
Hmm.
Haven't been here in a long time, but we're back here now, and we are launching Conscious Cacao in the US.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. I love that. It's just such a beautiful story. When you were starting there with the three things she was searching for, I almost had tears in my eyes. I was like, oh, that's so sweet. And I think from having spent time in both of your energies, you really are such a gift. And I think both so suited to working with this real heart-led medicine. You know, if anyone was to ask me to describe you guys, and I often do that. Somebody voice noted me the other day after I'd shared your cacao and said, "Oh, like I haven't tried this cacao," and I'm like, "Well, you need to because they're beautiful. They're lovely people with big hearts." So,
Thank you so much.
see, I think that love really comes through through your business, and obviously the authenticity of both your experiences and um time in the Sacred Valley where your conscious cacao. So the conscious cacao comes from the Sacred Valley, is that right?
The bean itself grows just outside of the Sacred Valley. It
Hmm.
is gathered and then brought into the Sacred Valley for part of the preparation.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. Oh, awesome. Okay, so for those that don't really know much about cacao, obviously, like you mentioned, you'd worked with different plant medicines. So sometimes I think people, if you class cacao as a plant medicine, people are a little bit wary and they're like, oh
Hmm.
my gosh, plant medicine. I think people have associations with, mushrooms or ayahuasca, or, they're
Hmm.
like, oh God, I don't want to be doing any of that. When ultimately, I'm looking at my desk where I've got, peppermint oil, plant medicine, um,
Hmm.
flower essences, plant medicine. So there's so many different forms of plant medicine, and also cacao is a superfood. So do you want to tell us a little bit more about what cacao actually is and why you might work with it?
Absolutely. So cacao grows 10 degrees plus or minus of the equator around the globe, originates from South and Central America, was been used for thousands of years by the Mayans and the Aztecs are the oldest that we're aware of ritualistic use of cacao, but there was certainly cacao used before then, and there are theories that the Mayans actually learned these traditions from the Olmecs, the people before them.
Mhm.
So it's been a plant that's been worked with for a very, very long time. Its growth has expanded throughout the globe as we develop a taste for chocolate. It is, of course, the base of chocolate, but what we are talking about here is 100% cacao. It is very different in
Yeah.
all things from growth, production, to how it's consumed. Um, and to touch on the plant medicine word, you mentioned some of these other plant medicines that get a lot of attention in the media. I think it's very important to not judge the strength and healing potential of a plant based on how it appears within our consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned mushrooms and ayahuasca. These plants are front and center in our consciousness. They're right there. You cannot miss them. Cacao is not like this. Cacao is much more subtle, much more grounding, much more in the body. Thus is a great introductory to plant medicine. Now, just because a plant is more subtle, just because a plant keeps you within your general regular consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
does not mean that it cannot be just as powerful as those other plants at
Yeah.
transformative healing. So when you approach cacao and you have a source of cacao that has been grown in an ethical way and thus is fitting for ceremonial use, and you approach it or any plant with the intention to heal,
Mm-hmm.
profound healing can happen in that space. Cacao can remove emotional blockages throughout the body, can open up the heart space. It's an earth medicine, it's a grounding plant. So I have here, right here, this is a small cacao pod of the tuncho bean that we work with. The fruit that we consume is inside of this. So this opens up in the jungle with a machete.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to get to the cacao bean we consume, it must open. Just in how the plant opens up our heart. We learn a lot from the physical characteristics of a plant. Once we open it up, the seeds, the beans, are covered by a white sugary pulp.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of tangy, it's sweet. It's like the sweet nectar of our heart when opened up. And it reveals the seed. This is what we consume, literally made by Mother Earth to go into the earth to give new life. It's grounding.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the physical characteristics of the plant. So this is a deeply grounding energy. It's a powerful energy to connect with your own being, to connect with the earth, to open up your heart space, and gradually, subtly open you up to the spiritual realm in a way that is manageable.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's such a like thank you so much for sharing all that and clarifying that. I think I was speaking about this to somebody the other day. There's such a misconception about um more or like these hugely transformational, like really kind of push you to your limit healing modalities is somehow better. And I was speaking about this to a friend who has been working with mushrooms and she was experimenting with different doses. And I was explaining to her about in kind of, I work a lot with like flower essences and essential oils and homeopathic medicine, whereby we use like minimum effective dose. So, and same with like cold water therapy as well. People think, oh, you got to sit out there for like longer is better. I'm doing it for an hour or whatever, when actually you really don't need to be doing that. So yeah, sometimes these subtle things that really, as you say, open our heart space. I mean, meditation is the same, right? Mindfulness, these really loving practices are so needed, grounded practices, aren't they, in today's society where we can really drop into our heart spaces. And I remember, as you mentioned, when I first started working with cacao, I had a lot of emotion came up that supported me with a lot of grief. Just working in that really loving, earthy, um, mothering, mothering energy. And for me, absolutely, it's such a gorgeous, grounding medicine to work with. And yeah, I'm so grateful that I kind of went on this journey. I went through I think it was like, I can't remember, 2-month process where I was actually guided each day
Mhm.
through working with cacao. And I think that that was actually really helpful in my journey as opposed to just, you know, buying something, making a cuppa and sitting and just as you say, being taught that was actually by a lady who has Mayan heritage. And yeah, if it was so powerful to just really have that authentic,
Mhm.
sacred experience with it. Um, yeah, yeah, love
Thank you for
cacao.
sharing.
Okay, so obviously we've kind of touched on a little bit about it, but yeah, spiritually, what can you expect when you're working with cacao? Obviously, you mentioned kind of that groundedness, or yeah.
One of the beautiful aspects of cacao, and it's what makes cacao so accessible, is that her spirit, as you mentioned, motherly, it tends to be recognized as a feminine spirit,
Mm,
meets you really wherever you're at in your journey. She's very accessible. She's very powerful for someone who's at the very beginning of their journey, and she's very powerful for someone who's been practicing for decades. And the way in which she works with you evolves with time. She meets you where you're at. So if you sit with an intent to heal, she'll help find you what you're ready to do. So a bit of this is we find like for doses, for example, and this kind of touches on what you said, a lot of talk is on the ceremonial dose being 40 to 42 grams.
mm,
We find that dose to be honest, really entirely unnecessary
mm.
most of the times. We actually drink way less as we get more sensitive, as we open up more to the plant. When we lead our own ceremonies, we give way less, give 20, 25 grams, and people have just as transformative of experience because of the intention.
Yeah.
The intention is there. So how we recommend approaching the ceremonial space is building that energy, right? So that might start by making a little altar. It need not be anything grand. Any small gift given from the heart is graciously accepted by spirit.
Mm,
And what you're doing while you make this altar, you're building your intention. You're putting energy into the space. As you make your cacao, as you chop your cacao, think of your intention. As you drink your cacao, certainly have your intention in mind and sit in presence and allow the medicine to work. Be open to connecting to the heart space and the intention changing.
Mm.
So what occurs in this space is going to depend on your intention and where you're at in this journey. You may experience deep emotional releases. You may cry.
Yeah.
You may feel great joy. This is part of the energy, but also the physical properties of
Mm.
cacao. You might decide you need to dance. You want to move around. There is, when you're approaching cacao with respect, there's really no wrong way. You
Mm.
might feel creative and feel like drawing and writing and painting. You might feel like it makes sense for you to get into nature.
Mm.
And that might be because in that space, you've connected to your heart, you've connected to your spirit, and they've been like, we really need to be outside. We
Yeah.
need to be around trees and hear the birds sing. Just take a walk in nature. So, what you can expect to find in that space when you're approaching it with intention is exactly what you need at that moment, and to trust that.
Beautiful, beautiful. And you mentioned just touching there on some of the like physical properties of cacao. So yeah, if we think about kind of, I guess, like the science, or those kind of aspects, because I think that's something that's, hugely important as well, for people to understand. Do you want to share? Because I know that you're very knowledgeable in these areas. Share a little bit about that.
Yeah, of course. Cacao in this form is a bona fide superfood. It affects our minds and bodies in multiple ways. Let's start with the mind. It's high in magnesium, which is calming to the mind. At the same time, there are numerous elements in cacao that promote the production of neurotransmitters associated with well-being: dopamine, serotonin, anandamide. The love chemical is encouraged to be produced when we drink cacao. These are all things that make you feel good. At
Mm.
the same time, the primary stimulant in cacao is theobromine. Theobromine acts very different than caffeine. Caffeine is a nervous system stimulant. Theobromine is a cardiovascular stimulant. So
Mm.
it's increasing your blood flow. At the same time, theobromine also encourages a boost in mood, steady energy. It makes you feel like you're awake. You're generally feeling good.
Mhm.
This increase in blood flow physically is part of the energetic opening that happens at the heart space. So when we drink cacao, we generally feel good. We have these feelings of joy. We have these feelings of love. We have these feelings that we have when our heart is open,
Mhm.
right? If we think of our culture, we associate chocolate with love.
Mhm. Yeah, true.
This is the cacao influence in that bar.
Mm.
We have pure cacao, it's way stronger, not even remotely comparable. Um, And then we move into like the minerals, the magnesium, the calcium. It has as much calcium as a glass of dairy milk.
Mhm.
It's really high in antioxidants, 15 times the amount of antioxidants as blueberries. These are, of course, anti-aging properties. You're not going to get, because this theobromine influence, you're not going to get these wild crashes that you
Mhm.
get from coffee, for example, that you get from other stimulants. Cacao is not going to interfere with your sleep. It's
Mhm.
actually some studies to suggest it improves sleep.
Yeah.
Um, so these are some of the aspects of cacao. The cacao butter that is in ceremonial cacao, but not cacao powder,
Mhm.
is extremely nutritious. It's a plant-based saturated fat, which means it's good for heart health. It's good for mental health. It's good for anti-inflammatory properties are throughout cacao,
Mhm.
and also very high in antioxidants are in the cacao butter.
Yeah.
Cacao is also really high, one of the highest plant-based sources of iron, which is good for the immune system. So if you're a vegan or a vegetarian, cacao is especially helpful because iron is more challenging to get for vegan and vegetarians.
Mhm. Sold. Anybody who's listening is like, right, I need this in my life. Um, yeah, yeah, it's incredible, isn't it, that one plant has so many benefits, isn't it? And I absolutely feel all of those. And as I navigate kind of perimenopause, like things like magnesium and the dopamine set and, supporting with serotonin and that mood boosting function, the cognition, all the things. Yeah, a yoga teacher was asking me the other day, who's at a similar stage of life, and she said, "Oh, do you drink it daily?" And I was like, absolutely. Like I do use it like a little antidepressant, mood booster to support me at this time, and all the functional bits and pieces and antioxidants and things, for sure. So amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So for people that are maybe a little bit intrigued and have never like attended a cacao ceremony, um, and think, they've maybe seen them advertised like either locally or online ceremonies, and they think, oh, well, I'd quite like to try that, but I'm not sure. Um, what would might that look like? I mean, I've obviously attended quite a lot of ceremonies now, and I find them hugely powerful, loving, supportive, transformative, aligning, connecting, beautiful spaces to be in. But yeah, what might people expect, and yeah, why might they decide to go and do that?
Well, the first thing that they should expect, if it's the right place for them, is that they feel safe there,
Mm,
that they feel welcome, they feel comfortable, and they feel like that they can express themselves however they need to in that space, and that it will be all right.
yeah.
Um, so that, of course, is the intention of the group, but also an intention of the space holder and this individual and their experience. The actual structure of cacao ceremony, it's going to vary from facilitator to facilitator, simply because cacao is so flexible, as we mentioned earlier. She meets us where we're at, she develops new skills, she further develops old skills, and everyone kind of works with her in their own little way. That's a beautiful aspect of this plant. In general, you're going to have oftentimes a blessing of the cacao, a blessing of the space, a calling forth of the cacao spirit into the space, a recognition that you're consuming a sacred energy that's going to enter you and assist you in connecting with yourself and healing. It's going to be a focus on what your intention is. From there, how the space looks varies.
Yeah.
So it can be a guided meditation of, any sorts. And we do intention setting with the new moon, full moon releasing. We might do mantras. We work with Ganesha summon ceremony. I might sing an Ikaro. Generally a meditation in our ceremonies. Some are just sound healing. Singing bowls are lovely. Some are dance and movement oriented, somatic movement. That's lovely. Some are have a high emphasis on self-reflection. We try to encourage that, at least at the end of our ceremonies, to give people the space to journal and process. They can be artistic. We have one person who studied with us who was just a fantastic painter and was all about integrating her work with cacao and with the arts and painting, and drinking cacao is just a fantastic creative stimulant and helping people express their emotions through arts. That's her unique gift. That's her unique connection to the plant. So the ceremonial space is going to vary a bit depending on who you're with.
Yeah.
And what you're aiming for is to feel safe, to trust, and trust that vibrational match
Mm.
with the community there, the facilitator, and the cacao that they work with.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, and I think yeah, it's so important to, as you say, honor the plant and have those intentions, and yeah, connect vibrationally with the right people and right community, and yeah, that can be make such a difference. So if people wanted to just start off integrating cacao into their life, where would you suggest they begin?
First off, getting a quality, high vibrational cacao. For us, this starts at the point where the cacao is grown, meaning that it was grown with respect to Mother Earth,
Mhm.
honoring the earth itself, honoring the plant, also honoring and respecting the farmers and the people that work with it, that they're cared for. So these clean ethics are very important um, in everything we consume, because eventually these energies make it to us, but especially if you're trying to do ceremonial and healing work. If these are off at the very beginning, that means the roots of your experience are literally off.
Yeah.
So making sure you're with a well-sourced cacao that you can trust from a trusted supplier, ideally ceremonial grade, although this word is used very widely, just verifying the ethics of it. Then there you have your cacao. Have your intention with the cacao. Like we said, cacao can be a whole lot of different things. It can be a simple morning ritual that's 3 or 4 minutes of you drinking the cacao, getting ready to go about doing your day. It
Mhm.
doesn't always have to be a grand, 1 hour experience.
Yeah.
If you just need that connection, that space to kind of prepare yourself for the day, to get those physical properties, that's okay.
Mhm.
Perfectly okay. Doesn't only have to be done with meditation and all these things. The
Yeah.
plant is fine with that. And with doses, we always recommend people start a little low and then kind of gradually build up,
Mhm.
depending on how they're feeling physically, mentally, and emotionally. So a lot of times, and we'll recommend like 10 to 15 grams starting out.
Yeah.
20 grams is a really nice daily dose for a lot of people.
Yeah, that's kind of what I tend to work with, 20-ish, depending on how much I've cut up. 20 to
No,
25, yeah.
the same. I'm usually around 15 to 20 grams.
Mm,
And that's for when I'm doing daily based things. If I just need to work or I need to do something creative, and that's my intention with the plant. Also, when I'm trying to do transformative healing and meditation practice and things like that, I'm at the same dose usually.
yeah.
Um, so that's it. And setting that intention with the plant, feeling out your dose, being patient with your dose.
Hmm.
We have this tendency in our culture, more is better, more is better. As
Hmm.
we've already hinted at a couple times, not necessarily.
Yeah.
Feel into what's right to you.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think it's such a beautiful plant to work with. It's almost like you want to enjoy that sense of safety, don't you? That loving energy. So yeah, just do it. Patience, isn't it? Patience
Mhm.
and that little unraveling, gentle unraveling. And I know that you've shared some on your bits on your Instagram how to prepare cacao as well, and I'll share your Instagram details and things here. Yeah, and I know that you've got your blogs and things on your website as well, so people can go and source how to do that and I shouldn't it says in your packaging and stuff as well, don't you? You've got stuff in it, I think, that tells people how to prepare it.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, thought that. Okay, beautiful. Okay, so most of the people listening are obviously interested in health, well-being, their spiritual practices, and I was looking for a bit of inspiration. Love to hear what other people are up to. So how do you support yourself mentally, emotionally, physically? Obviously, you have your beautiful cacao that you work with. What other types of things do you like to enjoy or Natalie like to enjoy?
Well, the first thing that comes to me is each other
Mm,
and holding space for each other, supporting each other through the triumphs and the challenges of life. So having someone that we feel comfortable being vulnerable with,
hmm.
that's the foundation.
Yeah.
From there, and we do this through cacao ceremonies where we drink cacao with the intention to connect with each other and bond and work through issues that may need to be addressed naturally. As well, I always find deep inspiration and soothingness from nature, especially the forest bathing, as the Japanese call it, spending time in nature, sitting time by water, without listening to music, without these kind of stimuli that keep the mind going. Let nature
Yeah.
soothe as much as possible. Generally, trying not to overuse stimuli when I have free time.
Mm,
Um, and other practices that I will do is I do mantra chanting and
yeah.
Sanskrit mantra. I do basic mindfulness meditation. I will do the techniques of Qigong, basic energy movement. The mantras are really great at clearing your energy field, clearing the mind. If I'm feeling sticky, and by sticky, I just mean there's dense energy around me. Maybe it's coming from me. Maybe it is.
Mm,
Maybe it's not.
yeah.
Maybe I've been in a space that was intense and I just feel off, meaning I'm not as centered. Maybe I'm not as patient. I can't think as clearly. I'm not as present. Mantra for me is a very powerful way of just very quickly in 10, 15 minutes, cleaning the energy field, cleaning my mind, and centering. Um, I'll also do breathing techniques between like pranayama and qigong based techniques. These are really great at pulling back into the body and doing numerous aspects.
Yeah.
Just a simple belly breathing, focusing on the diaphragm and your breath is very powerful,
Mm,
bringing you into the present moment. I try my best to note thoughts, to observe thoughts, to have that distance from thoughts, to not take my thoughts very seriously, and see
mhm.
them as something that's happening within my consciousness, but not defining my consciousness. So I may label them as
Yeah.
past, future, and just trying to, at the same time, notice my physical sensations, feel the wood that I'm sitting on now in this chair, my feet flat on the ground as much as possible when I'm sitting, because this is grounded.
Yeah.
Feel the air on my body, pulling myself essentially into the present moment.
Yeah.
We'll
Oh my
also do some
gosh.
yoga still, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, inspired already. I'm like in my head, like, oh, Qigong. Yes. I'd like spoken to we actually got a local Qigong studio here, where I stay in this village. And I'm like, yeah, you've reminded me now, that little sign that I need to follow up on that. Yeah, there's so many incredible practices available, isn't there? That and I guess people can access, I think everything you've mentioned that people can access for free, right? You know, your breath, nature, mindfulness, even Qigong, I know I followed along some YouTubes, Qigong just to get started. And yeah, so many beautiful things. Thank you so much for sharing. And yeah, I think that having that space of vulnerability that you mentioned as well, to have somebody to have those conversations is so necessary, and so powerful. And I was speaking to somebody about this the other day as well, because I think my husband had been away and I didn't, my friends weren't around, and I'm like, who do I thrash these things around with, rather than just having them in your head? And then my husband came home and we had the conversation, and I thought, oh gosh, like I'm so lucky and blessed that I have these people in my life that I can, yeah, like talk things through and process things. And I guess that's why having community and like the community that you, Natalie, have created, like online spaces as well, where we can share our journey and what's coming up for us, is so powerful and necessary when I guess in modern life we can feel quite fractured and away from friends, family, all those things. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so my podcast is called Be Free, and because freedom is one of my core values, and yeah, I'd love to hear, what is it that makes you feel free?
Surrendering,
Mm,
which in a sense is almost the opposite, because it's like I'm giving up my freedom,
mm,
but I don't find it to be that way.
mhm.
I find when I actually surrender, meaning that my mind's not going to try to control everything that I do. I find that space, I flow. And when I flow in that space, oh, great magic can happen.
Mm,
Great surprises happen in that space. I'm more present. I appreciate the simple beauties of life. And in this space, by, in a sense, giving up my freedom, I find the greatest freedom.
mhm. Oh, very profound and yeah, such a wonderful take on that. And yeah, I think it's probably something that so many people struggle with, because ultimately we feel like if we try and control everything, everything's going to be okay, and then it's not, and we try and control more.
Mhm.
So yeah, I totally get why that stepping back and that surrender. And I actually was teaching a class on this last week um about that very thing, and just being that steady force for yourself whilst all this chaos is going on around you. It can be really, really a powerful realization that change can occur around us, and we can still try and be present in that moment. So yeah, I love that. Thank you so much. So for anybody that's listening and they're like, oh my goodness, I need to follow up on this. I need to connect with Conscious Cacao. What do you have? Do you have any ceremonies coming up? What's going on for you guys? How can people connect with you?
Yes. So our website is consciouscacao.co.uk. We're also on the Instagram. It's conscious__ cacao. We're also on Facebook, Conscious Cacao. We post all sorts of information about cacaos in these spaces. Our next ceremony, I will be leading a full moon ceremony around releasing on December 15th.
Mm,
We are also coming upon in December our big Christmas sale, which will be 15% off of all cacao. There will also be a giveaway in both countries that we work in, the US and the UK. And you can find that giveaway information on Instagram. It will run through there. And you can purchase the cacao on the website. If you end up at the Instagram first, that's all right. It will take you there through our link tree.
yeah. Awesome, amazing. So yeah, everybody go give Natalie and Alex a follow and click through and check out their cacao. And I think as you mentioned, the intention, the ethics, the vibration when you're working with something ceremonially is so necessary. And it's something that I personally I can feel in your cacao. And I know both of you bless the cacao and you send Reiki to the cacao and you have ceremony with it before you send it out. And I think yeah, you can absolutely witness and feel that. So yeah, everybody go get your orders in and treat yourself or a friend for a little Christmas present. And perfect timing releasing, just as we move into the final stage of the year, before we move into the new year, for attending a ceremony to support you with that as well. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I'll have to check my diary for the 15th of December and see if I can get signed up and pop along as well. So yeah, is there anything else you want to add, Alex, before we jump off today?
Thank you. Thank you very much to you, Susie, for having us here, to your community for having us in this space. It's a great blessing to get to connect with all of you. I wish you a bounty full of blessings. May you experience consciousness and an open heart and love.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, I'm wishing you a beautiful rest of day in Tennessee. Yeah, your day is a bit earlier than ours. We're heading off into the evening now. It's been such a joy to connect with you today and to hear, you Natalie's process and journey with cacao as well and where that's led you. And I'm sure there'll be so many takeaways from this episode that people can go away and ponder and think about and process. So yeah, thank you so much, and I will look forward to catching up with you soon. Bye.